Hey guys, it's Tamara. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Welcome back. Today we're going to start the week off by talking about attachment trauma. This has been something that I unfortunately have not focused on this channel, and I want to start kind of turning that around because it's a very important topic. So I'm just going to talk about the signs that you may be experiencing attachment trauma. So thank you so much for coming back to my channel. For those who have been subscribed and participating, thank you so much. And for those who are new, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button and stick around with us so that you can learn, grow, suggest topics, and engage within our YouTube community. The benefits for you in today's video is that I'm going to highlight a couple of signs that you may be experiencing attachment trauma and how to deal with it. Actually, I'm going to talk about how to deal with it in the next video, so stick around for that. All right, so let's just go ahead and jump in to what attachment trauma is. So let me just give you a broad definition of what it is. Attachment trauma is basically the idea that you've experienced childhood trauma or some kind of trauma that has disrupted the attachment process with your caregiver, your guardian, but most importantly, your parent. The disruption of the relationship and the bond and the healthy, secure attachment with a parent can lead to years of unresolved trauma and relational chaos down the road. You know, a relationship with a child when they are brought into this world is the most important thing that they can have. And research suggests and backs up the idea that the most important figure in a child's life is the same-sex parent, okay? So for mothers, for daughters, it is mothers. For sons, it is fathers, right? And so research is trying to help us understand the benefits of having a secure and healthy attachment with one's parent. Unfortunately, you know, as I've been talking about all last month, you know, when there's narcissistic and unhealthy and sociopathic and toxic parents, it's really hard to get those parents to understand the importance of an emotional and psychological bond with a child. You know, I wonder if you know why right after childbirth, nurses and doctors put the baby right on the mother's chest. Do you know why they do that? You know, I had somebody ask me that once before, and they're like, do you know why they do that? And I took a really good guess because I didn't have a clue at the time. But I said, is that because they want the infant, the child, to bond with the mother? And she's like, absolutely. She explained to me that there's a powerful connection between mother and child right at that period of time. And skin-to-skin contact is great because it triggers and kickstarts that attachment process. Some people also believe that attachment with a child or an infant comes about when the child begins to develop in the womb. That's why you see mothers wear earphones over their bellies, because they're trying to connect with the fetus and connect with the emotional development of the child. And, you know, not a lot of research backs that, but a lot of people do believe that. I have a belief of that as well. I think that you can communicate with the fetus and they know what's going on spiritually and sensory-based and emotionally as well. It's interesting. Attachment is a pretty interesting thing. As a matter of fact, there was a study, there was a study done in the past. It was a psychological study where a psychologist, I want to say Harry Harlow, and he did experiments on attachment. And one of the things that he found is that the monkeys who had the choice between an iron monkey figure and a cotton monkey figure, he found that, you know, having that option, that the monkey actually preferred the cotton monkey figure over the iron bar monkey figure. And so the whole idea behind that study and experiment was attachment, right? The monkeys felt more attached to the soft and nurturing and cushion-like monkey as opposed to the cold, callous iron monkey. And what he deduced or brought about from that study was an awareness and an understanding that there's a huge emotional and psychological piece to emotional and psychological attachment. that attachment is powerful. And so when a child has experienced trauma, especially at the hands of one's caregiver or parent, that attachment process is disrupted. And when that happens, development throughout childhood and adolescence and adulthood is going to be pretty complicated and pretty difficult. So I want to point out a couple of signs that you are struggling with attachment trauma. All right. So the first sign of attachment trauma is clinginess to others, and primarily clinginess to your own therapist. A lot of people fail to realize that clinginess is not just a personality trait. It's not just a desire to want to be near somebody. Clinginess can tell you a lot about a person's history. It can tell you a lot about their psychological makeup. And it can also tell you a lot about their emotional and psychological and spiritual needs. Emotional attachment speaks a lot of the time to what somebody has experienced in childhood or over the lifespan. And so when you're clingy, especially to someone who has authority like a therapist, a parent, a police officer, a judge, an attorney, you really are desiring, in a sense, that emotional connectedness that you did not get. Sigmund Freud came up with the term projection. You begin to take the emotions that you feel and you project them onto other people, or you begin to take your experiences and you project them onto other people. And so I firmly believe in that. I wholeheartedly believe in the idea of projection. And I think that's what's happening here. The clinginess is basically, your desire or a desire to have what you or the person did not have growing up. And so the clinginess allows you that feeling of security, that feeling of love and attachment that you didn't get from the person you wanted it from in your childhood or in years past. So it's interesting when I have clients that come in and they've dealt with attachment trauma, they really do cling to me just like that, and they cling to everything I say, everything I suggest, everything I do. They love to hug me. They love to email me updates and involve me in, their world. I'm getting married on this date and I'm having a child on this day. Just wanted to let you know I'm pregnant. Just wanted to let you know I got married. And that's wonderful and beautiful. I love when they do that. But there are situations where that attachment trauma can take a client way too far with a therapist, and then the therapist has to say, okay, here's the boundary. Safety's involved, ethics are involved, the list goes on. I'm going to talk a little bit more about trauma and working with a therapist in this month's video, so stay tuned for that, because there's some legal and ethical implications I think you're going to enjoy learning about. All right, so the next one is codependency, or what I like to call a fusion of identity. The individual becomes very fused in identity with the other individual that they're in a relationship with. The attachment trauma that they have experienced has caused them to lose their identity. They don't have a self-concept. They don't have an awareness of who they are or should be. And so what ends up happening is they become codependent, and they start taking on the emotions and thoughts and morals and values and behaviors of the other person that they're attached to. They also begin to experience, again, that fusion of identity. So they have no idea who they are, and they have absolutely no idea who they should be. They completely lose themselves in the other person, and that is dangerous. I'm going to post a video up here that I did early last year or the year before that, about codependency, and I explain it using a trauma-based perspective. So I'm going to post it up here. Go ahead and check that out. All right. The next thing is fear of abandonment and loss. I think when an individual has experienced attachment trauma, especially traumatic bonding, which is the whole idea that, you're under a parent, guardian, or somebody that you love who switches between nice and abusive, And because of that switch, you begin to cling to the nice person and you ignore the abusive person, because you're dealing with what's called cognitive dissonance. You can't hold two opposing views in your mind at the same time. So you abandon the abusive theory of your loved one or the person that you're in a relationship with, and you cling to the good side. But what that ends up doing is causing a fear of abandonment, because now you're holding on to an abusive person who most likely is going to hurt you again, who's most likely going to mistreat you again, and who's going to slam the door on you again. And that's the scary part about being codependent or having a fear of abandonment or struggling with attachment trauma, because we cannot put our faith 100% in another human being. That's just not fair to them, and it's not fair to you. It's impossible. So, you know, people are going to die, they're going to change, they're going to separate, they're going to divorce, they're going to move on, they're going to want a different kind of relationship. And so to have attachment trauma and to have a fear of abandonment really puts you in a vulnerable position, because again, we can't put our faith in a human being 100%. So yeah, that's the downside to this. Okay, the next one is relationship hoarding. Okay, that's a word that I came up with years ago, relationship hoarding. And what I mean by that is, you know, you go from one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next, and you're just friends with everybody you come in contact with. You know, your attachment trauma has made you so emotionally and psychologically needy that you're friends with her, you're friends with him, you're friends with them, you're friends with that. And it's like, oh my God, do you know where you're at? You know, it's like, do you know what friend you want to be a part of? Do you know what values you want to be a part of? Do you know what culture you want to be a part of? Do you know what group you're trying to be involved with? You don't know those specifics because you're friends with everybody. And it's because I just want to be friends with everyone. You can never have enough friends. And I've seen people like that. And unfortunately, that puts you in another vulnerable spot because you don't develop those close, intimate relationships, and you can't remember all the details of a big group of friends. And there's no intimacy in the relationship. So you miss out on the wonderful aspects of having that relationship because you're friends with everybody. So relationship hoarding. And last but not least is what I call the push-pull disposition. I want you in my life. Never mind. I think I want you at this party. No, I'll change my mind. I think I want to marry you. Well, not quite. It's push and pull, right? It's let's go get married. You're my everything. You're my world. You're my heaven, my earth, my stars, the moon. I actually heard a guy say that one time. And then you pull back and you say, you know what? I think it's too early for us to get married. I think I want to adopt some children with you. Okay, honey, let's go adopt some kids. You pull back and you say, I'm having second thoughts about this. Push, pull, push and pull disposition. It is extraordinarily confusing to people that you are in a relationship with, because 1 minute you're green, 1 minute you're red, 1 minute you're, yellow. Let's slow this down a little bit. And next thing you know, you're speeding things up. I've had clients in the past, so I'm talking like 10 years ago, when I was in an internship, I've had people say things to me like, I'm going to take this relationship really, really slow because I don't want to get hurt again. And next thing I know, they're getting married. And it's like, well, I thought you said you were taking this slow. It's, this speeding up of interaction in a relationship. And it really is the push and pull of the relationship. It's a push and pull disposition. You don't know how to just be one firm, balanced, basic way. It's pull and pull. It's pull and push and pull. And it's a really hard dynamic. When you're in a relationship with someone, whether that's family, a coworker, a friend, romance, you need to be balanced and firm and concrete, not so confused that no one can keep up. So these are some of the characteristics of attachment trauma, and there's tons more, but these are the ones that I see most in my practice here, and these are ones that you guys have asked me questions about on the channel, so I wanted to make sure that I address those. Stick around for the next video on Wednesday, because I'm going to talk about ways that you can cope with this and ways that you can learn to manage attachment trauma, because it can really get you stuck in some spots that I'm sure you don't want to be in. Thank you so much for being with me today, guys, in this video. Once again, and like I always say, I thank you for being here and supporting the channel, for adding your comments. Let me know if this video was helpful to you in the comment section below. I'm going to go ahead and also post some of the studies I mentioned in this video, and I'm going to post some articles about attachment trauma that may be helpful to you. All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of the week, and I will see you on Wednesday.